Hi grade 7s, welcome to Monday morning. I hope that you all had a great Mother's Day yesterday and that you spoiled your moms and your grannies and your aunts, all those mommies. Today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing page 95 and 96 of your Maths Made Easy books. What I will do is I will do a few examples, as well as I will write a few points on what you really need to understand with regards to different terms used with addition and subtraction of decimal fractions, and then as I said, I'll do a few examples. Not too much work, pretty straightforward, and you should all be fine with it. Okay, so for page 95, the first one, number 2, is addition and subtraction of decimal fractions. It says complete a 2/10 and 3/10 is equal to how many tenths? Okay, so the difference here is that they've written the word tenths out. Okay, so if I look at that first word where it says 2/10, okay, 2/10. If I convert that to a common fraction or a proper fraction, it will look like that. Okay, so let's not get confused by the word tenths being written out. That one pretty straightforward. It says 2/10 plus 3/10 is going to be 3 and 2 is pretty straightforward, 5/10. Okay, and that is your answer. Okay, so if you write that out as a decimal fraction, okay, we've showed it written out, we've showed it as a common fraction or a proper fraction. If you write it out like in the second line of A, it says which means that 0,2 plus 0,3. So all we're doing is we're saying those are now decimal fractions. Okay, so as we've seen in the preceding pages, or the pages before page 95, there are a lot of columns used, a lot of tables used, and when I'm doing fractions or decimal fractions, I like to put everything in columns. That's what helps me a lot. Okay, so if I put these two in columns, I know that this first column, okay, is the tenths column. Okay, is the tenths column. So, because it's tenths that we're working with, we know that this number needs to be in that tenths column. Let's say, for example, it said 2 hundredths plus 5 hundredths. Okay. Then we know that the column we need to work with is going to be the hundredths column. So if I've got my columns, for example, let's say I put my decimal points in there. Now we must remember that our decimal point or our comma must always go between the units and the tenths. So this indicates, the decimal point or the comma indicates where our whole numbers, so anything this side of the decimal is a whole number, and our fractions, anything that side of the comma is a fraction. So the first line is the tenths, the next one is the hundredths, and then we go on to the thousandths. Okay, so let's look at these numbers that I've given an example of now. 2 hundredths, okay, will go then in the hundredths column. Okay, and then I'm plussing 5 hundredths, as my example says. Okay, so we must remember as well that a 0, as it says in highlight in bold there, it says remember when adding and subtracting that you can use zeros as placeholders. Okay, so there we've got nothing there, we're going to put a 0 in there, and we can also, before the decimal point or the comma, we can put a 0 as well. Alright, so now we've got those written out as decimals, we can now add them. 5 plus 2, remember that when we're adding decimals as well, we go from right to left, so we go backwards. Okay, we're not going to go 0 plus 0 is 0 and 0 plus 0 is 0. You can, but the safest method is to go from right to left, and I will tell you why in a minute. Okay, so 5 plus 2 is equal to 7. 0 plus 0 is equal to 0. Put your decimal place in, and you have got zeros. Okay, so I'm going to write a note here for columns. Okay, so that's our first teaching point there is that we're working now in columns. Although I see it does say calculate horizontally as well at the bottom of the page. So when we talk about vertically and horizontally, okay, a vertical line, as we know, looks like that, and then a horizontal line looks like that. The way I remember it is I think of horizon. Okay, when you look at the horizon, what does the horizon look like? Looks like that, eh? You normally see the sun go down, for example, on the horizon. That's how I remember it. Okay, so key to learning these terms is know what vertical and horizontal means as well. Alright, so I'm going to write that here, vertical and horizontal. Okay. Alright, so let's do a few examples here. Let's do a few examples. Another term we're going to use is the term of borrowing. Okay, now borrowing happens when our numbers go greater than 10, then we have to borrow from one next to it, or we give the number next to it and we borrow one to them. Okay, so let's do an example at the bottom of page 95 where it says calculate horizontally. So we know that this is going to go like this, horizontally. I'll do an example of D, okay, 2D. It looks like this. It says 18, 21 minus 17,89. Okay. Now remember we are instructed here to do it horizontally. It says do not rewrite the numbers in vertical columns. In other words, don't rewrite them like this. Alright, so what we're going to do, we're going to do it horizontally. So we are going to say, remember we're working from right to left, eh? So we're going to say 9 plus 1, because these two are in the same column. Hey, they are in the hundredths column. So that number, what that number is worth, if you write it as a common fraction, it will look like this. 9, it's in the hundredths column. This 1 will look like that. It's 1/100th. Okay. So, when we are, remember it's minusing, and this is such a common mistake. And this happened last year when we did decimals. I see it year after year after year. All the equations have been addition equations, you're adding, and then all of a sudden it becomes minusing, and so many people forget to check that it's now subtracting, and then they add the numbers together. Okay, so this looks pretty straightforward, eh? Can we say 1 minus 9? We can't. Okay, it'll go into a negative number. So what we've got to do is we've got to borrow from our next door neighbor, which is the 2, and we've got to take 10, which is going to make that number 11 now. 1 and 1 is 11. Now can we say 11 minus 9? Yes, we can. It's going to be 200. Hey, 11 minus 9 is 2. Okay, so we've done that one. Then this is equal to 1 now. Because we've taken 10 away from it, it's now equal to 1. Okay, can we say 1 minus 8? No, we can't. We've got to borrow from our neighbor again. We've got to make him 7, and we've got to make that 11 now, because we borrowed another 10 from him. Okay, so now we can say 8 minus 11 is going to be 3. Okay, and then don't forget our decimal point. We're putting our decimal point in. Remember, it goes in exactly the same spot every time. Okay, so now we've got the number 7. Can we say 7 minus 7? Yes, we can. It will equal 0. Okay, and then we can say, 1 minus 1 Yes, we can. It will be 0 as well. So your answer is comma 32 as a decimal fraction. Okay, let's move on. I will do an example from page 96, and I will do the one that says 67.49 plus 84.82. Okay, so now you can see we're not going horizontally anymore. Now we are using a vertical or a column method. Okay, so just like we borrowed when we subtracted, we borrowed, now we are carrying over numbers as well if they go above 10. So this is pretty straightforward. Remember, the rule is always work from right to left, and remember CUC. If you look in your book where it says CUC, that means keep your commas under commas. Okay, so these commas or decimal points, they need to always be directly underneath each other. Okay, that normally is my first step before I do an addition or subtraction. You put that in so you know that that's in straight away. Okay, so 9 plus 2 is going to be 11. Okay, so you carry your 1 and you put your 1 in there. Then you say 8 plus 4 is 12, plus 1 is 13. Okay, because you add the 1 that you carried. Okay, now you've got your decimal point. You carry on adding from right to left. You say 7 plus 4 is 11, plus 1 is 12. You carry your 1. And then you can say 8 and 6, 14, plus 1 is 15. And you can just write the 15 in there. So your answer then is 152,31. Okay, so just to recap very quickly on a few terms that we've used. We've used the borrowing method, or the carryover method when you're carrying numbers over when they go over 10. We've used the columns, okay, column method of addition and subtraction. Important to know what horizontal and vertical is. Very, very important you understand that terminology. The zeros, okay, we use that you can use, don't forget you can use zeros as place values, okay, or placeholders. So whenever you've got a space, you just put a 0 in there and you'll be fine. And I think that is it. Columns, verticals, horizontal, commas under commas, and zeros as placeholders. Okay, I think that pretty much sums it up. All the best, guys, and all your teachers are here for you. If you need any help, you just you get a hold of us. All right. Thanks, guys.